Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was announced yesterday during the Fed meeting. Jerome Powell saying there is not going to be a rate cut, so we will have to wait until at least September, as there's no meeting in August. They meet around every 6 weeks. Donald Trump not happy at all, calling Jerome Powell too late, and is obviously not too happy with him. So the question now when it comes to crypto in terms of the Pi cycle top, the idea of an alt season happening possibly sometime in early winter, are we on track for that? Will we get a rate cut? What is the FedWatch tool saying? Well, this is a tool that I've utilized before. I talked about how the September 17th meeting, which is the next meeting, likely the next time they're going to cut unless they do an emergency cut, which is extremely, extremely unlikely at this point. The next time they potentially will be cutting will be in September, which is what Trump had said. He said, look, they didn't cut, but they'll be cutting in September. Well, this is the September 17th meeting, and now they've got it at a 60% chance there will not be a change. There will not even be a 0.25% basis cut. They're saying there's going to be no change. Right now, the rates are sitting at 4.5%. You go to the meeting on October 29th, so right around Halloween. They say there's around a 61% chance there will be an ease. So even by the late October meeting, we're looking at maybe a 50-50. Will they cut? Will they not? We got the recent inflation numbers. They came out, and I believe the inflation rate, although actually I'm not even sure, that doesn't even make sense. Yeah, I don't think the inflation numbers came out. Normally the inflation numbers come out around the 10th or the 15th of every month. So I don't know. There was some inflation data that I saw that said it had ticked up to around 2.8%, but either way, even by late July, or excuse me, by late October, which is when we would expect things to be really kicking up. I mean, if you pay attention to the Pi cycle top, they say mid-September for Bitcoin. If that happens, you're talking about October, November. Although there are people say, well, it'll be delayed and it might be elongated, and we might get a bigger alt season this year. And you could be talking about maybe November, December, January for the alt season. Maybe it's the very late months of 2025, and then even January of 2026. Maybe it's a 2017 setup where you get Bitcoin around Thanksgiving going into December, and then you get the alt season happening in January of the next year. Maybe that's what happens. But even, I mean, we would love to see you get one single 0.25 basis cut. I mean, that would be, especially in October, because we're entrenched in a very bullish time. And then you've got December 10th. They're saying there's an 83% chance of at least a 0.25 ease by, and even you're talking about a 0.5 ease around, I would say around a 40% chance in December. And then you go to January, which is potentially towards the end of the bull run. Obviously, there's an 88% chance it's likely going to happen. The question is, are we timing this? Do we really think we would love it to happen in September? It would be great because you could be looking at a September and October cut, each of 0.25 basis points. It would be amazing. So that's just the update in terms of the rate cuts that did not happen at the last Fed meeting. That was yesterday. Just looking at the market overall, you've got Bitcoin trending around 120K, right now sitting at around 117. You take a look at the total market cap of cryptocurrency sitting around $3.9 trillion, which is, I believe that's basically an all-time high. Yeah, it's virtually a new all-time high, maybe a little bit lower. It reached around 4 trillion. It was reported by several different places. I don't know if CMC was one of them, but they reported the total crypto market cap being around 4 trillion. To put that into context, we would hope in a bullish scenario, you'd do about a 3x, maybe a 3.5x, but possibly you want to go from 4 to 12. So that is a 3x. 4 times 3 is 12. So you're looking at maybe a 3x in terms of the total crypto cycle top at around 12 million. Now, I've also heard 10 million as a more realistic gauge. If you want to be more bearish, you could say 9 or 10 million. Ethereum, which is huge for us, many of us in a lot of meme coins, low cap meme coins that need Ethereum to do very well. Ethereum is trending at around $3,700, $3,700. We would love to see Ethereum go to around 10K. I think that's the golden number for Ethereum. Hopefully that ends up happening, but we will see. You've got the alt season sitting at 35 out of 100. Certainly it's not alt season. Fair and Green at 62. I don't think that's a really great indicator. The Bitcoin dominance sitting at around 61%. We will know when it's alt season because the BTC dominance will be into the, hopefully the low 40s. I would say that's what we would expect based off of the 2017 cycle, based off of the 2021 cycle, the lower 40s, maybe the mid 40s, because people say Bitcoin is more of, it's a commodity that's been embraced by so many countries and there's tons of corporate money involved. So maybe Bitcoin is inflated to the point to where the dominance won't go under 45%. I have heard things like that, but maybe it goes to around 43, 44%, something like that. You go to the alt season right now, they've got it sitting at around 35. Taking a look at the top 100 coins performance in the last 90 days, you do have SPX. I would imagine this is going to be pretty routine when you're talking about the blue chip meme coins. SPX is going to outperform everything, I would imagine. It's just going to be the meme coin of the cycle, which I perfectly am fine with. Take a look at some of the other ones. You can see BTC performing plus 20. BTC performing better than Doge. I think Doge will reach 100 billion, but it's interesting to see that. And then you've got a Pump Fund coin down there. That's the new Pump Fund coin. Not surprised it's because it's brand new, and also it's not a smart investment. Bitcoin dominance right now is kind of tabling around 60%. It's traced all the way. Yeah, you don't want to. We'll do the time frame of the last year. So Bitcoin dominance was around 64%. Right around July 4th, there was an infusion onto Ethereum, into a lot of the altcoins, meme coins. And so we saw it retrace back to around 60%. But again, just looking at where we would expect it to go, you go back to that 2021 time frame, and you do have the Bitcoin dominance going all the way around to 40%, the lower 40s. You go back to the 2018 time frame, the Bitcoin dominance was actually under 40%. So we'll know when it's time to sell out of the memes, because the Bitcoin dominance will be in the lower 40s. Now, technically, it's not a perfect thing, because it becomes dependent on which memes are you in and what does the meme look like, because there could be a narrative that catches on really late that maybe the dominance is at a point to where you probably should sell, but it's a narrative that hasn't caught on yet, and it's going to catch on, and it becomes this time-sensitive thing. So it's really dependent on the coins that you're in, but the hope is that most of the coins will boom, and when they boom, the Bitcoin dominance will go down as there's more money flow after Bitcoin reaches its high, which potentially will be around 170, 180K. I feel like that's kind of the golden area. You do have very bullish people saying it's going to go to 250. There are indicators that say it could go from anywhere from 215 to 300. I've seen people in bearish scenarios say 140, 150. So I take in the middle and say, well, what about 160, 170, maybe 180, as opposed to, because originally I was like, all right, I think it's probably going to be 150, but maybe it will be more. It's already at 120, basically. It's already got like a high of 120. So if it's around 120, what's 150, 160, 170? I mean, and this all probably is going to happen within the next 3 months, I would imagine. Especially if you are a believer in the Pi cycle top, if you're a believer in previous indicators, even if you're not, just based off of where we're headed and when we get this rate cut. I mean, both of these next Fed meetings are in really good dates, like mid-September. I mean, isn't that like the Pi cycle top date, September 17th? Imagine they get a cut then. But I don't think that's really going to hold. I think it'll be a little bit different for Bitcoin. I think it'll be longer. We'll say that. I think it won't be on the Pi cycle top date. I think it will happen possibly the high of Bitcoin this cycle sometime in October. What I hope is that the memes that we're invested in not boom, but do like a 4 or 5x beforehand, so we'll actually have like a true 100x or 200x. Because think about the people that got into SPX. I mean, that coin's already done like a 500x, and they're going to get the benefits of the blow off alt season too. We haven't even seen the benefits of what's going to happen to SPX once the alt season really commences. So really, these next two Fed meetings, it would be great. They say there's a 40% chance of an ease. They say there's a 61% chance of an ease December, which I still think we're probably in the alt season in December. 83% chance of an ease, and possibly around a 40% chance of 2 cuts down to 4% flat from where it is at 4.5 right now. So I think that's the hope. I mean, we'll see with inflation. A lot of this is based off of, the reason the Fed exists technically is for the macro picture, but micro indicators are what determines in part what they're going to do. It's inflation. So when we get the inflation numbers, what will we're going to get inflation numbers for both July and August, and then on the 17th they'll be deciding what they end up doing. And I think there's a lot of pressure from Trump onto Powell to try and cut these rates. It seems like there's some type of vendetta The story with Powell last September, if you guys remember, last September they cut 2 times or 0.5 basis points. So it was basically 2 cuts in one meeting. That was in last September. So could we get that again? And we'll have to see. I mean, last September there was a big incentive to do it for liberals, and with the election upcoming, I don't know. Either way, guys, make sure you like the video down below. That's going to do it for this one.